Yo, yo, yo. I'd like to welcome you to Living for a Living, episode number 51. This week's guest is a interesting one. You know me, I like to talk to random people, whether it be on the street or on the internet, making friends anywhere I can. And I met this dude on TikTok, of all places. He's a Canadian dude from Vancouver, BC, but just not the Vancouver, BC I think of. And he tells some stories about what it's like growing up in maybe the more humble side of Vancouver, which at times was a little bit reminiscent for me with Trailer Park Boys, if you've seen that series. He's also a up and coming artist, musical artist, and got some jams that I've been bumping the last couple days since we started talking. We talk about a variety of topics, from politics to stories about getting in trouble to growing up and what our family dynamics were like, how we came to the belief of being able to do what we want in this life. And then we also cover how he got into music and how that path has gone for him and how it's going now. We finished off with a little bit of psychedelic talk, and that's always fun. So, yeah, it's a long one, but man, it's pretty jam packed. And especially for two dudes who had never met or talked before, it went about as smoothly as possible. And I'm grateful now, consider this guy a friend. Without any further ado, our guest this week, my guy, Robin Skies.
Living for a living, baby. How you doing?
I mean, hey man, better to be in Finland than in the States currently. So,
Dude, it's of all places right now, although it's slowly creeping here, but
yeah,
like this is the best place to be. Like
yeah,
they have very minimal lockdowns, no, like it's all just like recommendations, like nothing's like required.
yeah.
And no, people are cool here, but I think it's kind of inevitable that the madness will just spread everywhere eventually at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I've been pretty lucky because like I live in BC,
Okay.
and out of all of the provinces in Canada, BC is the only one that never locked down, not once.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. So we had basically the government in March was like, hey, we recommend that restaurants like slow their roll. And then they started putting restrictions on the amount of people that could be in the restaurant and kind of the social distancing stuff. But there was never a full shutdown. Like nothing got locked down. Restaurants were like, okay, well, we should probably just go to curbside and stuff like that. And the government is just in BC has been so hesitant to do anything heavy-handed. And somehow for the longest time we had very low case counts. Ours are rising pretty drastically now.
Okay.
Just because like Christmas break, people traveled out of the province and stuff like that. And people didn't really care to social distance too much once winter set in, because of course it's freaking dark and cold all the time and it's depressing. But yeah, even now, like, I don't know, we're averaging like probably like 300 to 500 new COVID cases every 3 days. And the government's still kind of like, well, if you want to go to the local pub and get a beer with your family, like go ahead. Like if you want to go out for dinner, like, just don't go in big groups, right? Just like be smart, wash your hands, wear a mask, don't be an idiot.
Okay. That's like night. I mean, as an American, it's like as soon as you tell us like we have to do something, it's like whether people agree or not, they're like, no, I refuse, and like that's how it's been here. I think bars are only allowed to be open until midnight. They did like a little shutdown in March, I think maybe for a month or so, but it was like extremely preventative, like I think there's been like, shit, I don't know. I know when I got here about a month and a half ago, there were 500 cases in the entire year in my
Wow.
city. And so it's all just like recommended the masks and social distancing, and Finnish people, like they social distance naturally. And so like there's like a meme that's like, did you hear like we have to stay 6 feet apart? And they're like, yeah, you believe we have to be this close to each other now? Like, so it's been pretty easy. And when you put it into like recommended rather than required,
Hmm.
makes that whole like idea of working together a little easier. And I think, in my opinion, I'm not some psychology major, but that's how
No,
I
dude,
view it.
I completely agree with you. Like, and I think it's a lot harder with the states, as you said, because America's got a little bit of an attitude problem when it comes to like being told what to do by the government,
For sure.
which makes sense, right? 1776 will commence again, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you know, I respect it too a little bit because like part of me has always had as a Canadian, Canadians are often raised to kind of see America as like their stupid older brother.
Yeah,
So
right,
you're
right.
kind of like oh, America, you
I know,
idiot. But
like how did I feel bad when I was like, yeah, where are you in the state? Like I knew I was like, I'm sure you were just like, man, fuck this guy, you know? Like,
yeah, I mean, a lot of Canadians would be. You're lucky you got me because I actually really do like the States.
yeah.
I love America. Some of the funnest times I've ever had. Like I went down to Seattle with a couple of buddies, and we went to this and we went like to a bunch of bars and stuff over like just a one night period, and we went and got hammered and we hung out, and I was like loud and obnoxious and just stupid, and the only people who told me to quiet down and stop being so impolite were Canadians that were in the city for like a Jays game. And they're like, hey, you know, you're representing Canada kind of bad, eh? And I was like, shut the fuck up. Freedom of speech, eat my ass. Like,
Yeah, you didn't hit him with the oh sorry,
oh, sorry,
sorry.
bud. No, oh, I know I shouldn't be saying so much smack about the prime minister, but you know, he's kind of a goof. So
Yeah, no, it's like you said, I try to explain that to Europeans. We're like, listen, you got to understand the country is built on literally like, hey, fuck you. We don't want to be a part of this anymore. Like, and that's like, you know, there's things that are carried over in DNA like throughout year, you know, and so that's like in DNA for Americans now or whatever. And so it's when people can't understand, like, well, why did, and I mean, there's also been some stuff that makes you question the government at times also, but you know, at the very just root cause, it's like, dude, it's in the DNA, you know?
yeah, like we were born for this. Like, don't tell us to be anything else.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. You know, I'm a quarter Finnish now, and so like it's kind of cool being here, and then a quarter Irish. So I got my Irish passport or Irish citizenship, still working on the passport now.
Nice.
And then a quarter Danish, and I joke like that makes me American. You know, like that that's like the what it is. And so no, man, I it's interesting times right now, and that's what I mean, the way that you talk on TikTok, which is just like, I love the internet now at this point because I'm like a big fan of, as you can tell, like reaching out to random people that I don't really know and trying to get something going because fuck, it's social media, you know, like let's be social, you know, it's not, a lot of people treat it as like nosy media, you know, where they're just like trying to spy on people. And so like throughout all the stuff you've said of, you know, I think, you know, I've mainly seen a lot of your stuff talking about politics, and I'm like, man, this guy gets it. And then come to find out, I was like, oh, he's Canadian. No wonder. Like he doesn't have this like this emotional involvement that a lot of people who I think are in the picture can't see the whole picture. You know what I mean?
They can't see the big issue. I mean, and it's funny too, because like you say, I don't have any emotional involvement. Canadians do have an emotional involvement because whatever happens down south ends up affecting up north.
True.
Right? Like Donald Trump's presidency was really, really bad for, you know, like our like what is it? Aluminum, I think, and steel. Like he added tariffs and stuff to some of our products, right?
Right.
Which is funny because people are like, oh, we need to get Joe Biden in because he'll be a lot nicer economically. Day one, he axed the Keystone XL pipeline. Alberta and Saskatchewan crap their pants. They're so mad. Like the premiers of the premiers of Alberta and Saskatchewan called Trudeau and told him that he needs to like implement sanctions against the states. Like they were like, you need to tell Joe Biden he's an idiot and he needs to change this. And I'm just like, okay.
I saw it. I saw that same like XL pipeline and like how it affected like overall like 1.6 billion in gross wages, you know, but it was from the and I didn't even think about, because that's I went to school in North Dakota for 2 years, and so right in Grand Forks, so like we were right close to there, and I was like, oh shit, that would affect Saskatchewan and Alberta. Like I didn't even think about it from that side.
Yeah, like I think the math was like 60,000 Canadian jobs lost over like the next 10 years or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it's crazy, man, because like because Canadians, like they have a similar issue to Americans, where they read, like, you know, the news, and then they just assume, like, you know, orange man bad, and you know, old Joe okay, right?
Grandpa Joe, baby.
We like Grandpa Joe. And then this happens, and they're like, what? Huh? You know, and I've been screaming about it for a while, like just kind of like, hey guys, you know, shut up, like like it's not that simple. But hey, what are you gonna do? I'm not American, so
for sure it is what it is. And I mean, I've kind of literally gone full circle in like the Trump presidency, like of my dad was a Trump guy, or I wouldn't say a Trump guy, but in the beginning, like voted for Trump, and you know,
he was better than Hillary.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and like he's old, he's like close to 80, kind of got fucked by Obamacare with like some of his own insurance. Like he had his own little reasons, small business owner. For him it made total sense, and he did a lot better in the last 4 years than the previous 8. But anyway, I would get in arguments with him about like, what, you kind of like it, you know, this is 2016. I'm like, you like him? And he's like, yeah, you know, and I'm like, no, but how? And this and that. And even though if you held a gun to my head in 2016 and made me vote, I would have voted for him over Hillary.
Yeah.
But I was living in Portugal at the time, so it's like I'm good. And but now I kind of came full circle. At one point I was like probably a believer in like Trump saving the children, you know, like he's getting rid of all the pedophiles. Like I was totally down that rabbit hole for a little bit. And then as this thing ended, I was just like, dude, maybe he's not just like the stereotypical like cog in the system, but he got used as a cog in the system, just like anybody, in a way, you know. Like I don't know if I don't know exactly. It's like I don't think the like, obviously they didn't want him to be in, but they made the most of his presidency in affecting people in a certain kind of way, you know?
So the thing that I find really interesting is you can tell who was actually loyal to the president in the last few days of his presidency, and who was just using him to push their agenda. People like Newt Gingrich and Mitch McConnell. Snakes. Absolute snakes. They threw him under the bus. They cut him out once he stopped being a useful pawn or whatever. Once he stopped being, you know, helpful to the Republican Party, he was gone. Ted Cruz, loyal as hell. Ted Cruz is still to this day is defending, like, still, like, even though it's been a few days since he's not president, he's still out there like, yeah, you know, I stand by what I did. He wore a mask to Joe Biden's inauguration that said "come and take it" on the side. Right? Like Ted Cruz is a savage, and the man is actually genuinely loyal to Donald Trump. And it's interesting to see how this is all going to play out. My assumption, here's the thing, Republican Party is now fucked without Donald. Like they're fucked.
No, your one video about the now is the chance for an independent is like totally true.
They have here's the thing, because he activated millions of people who wouldn't have voted Republican or just wouldn't have voted in general to come underneath him. I think it was like, I got the statistic from Ben Shapiro, so like, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but I think it was like Donald Trump was up 4 points in every demographic, and he was down 5 points with white people.
Exactly. Right? I mean, my buddy who donated for Bernie in 2016 was flipped and was a Trump. I mean, me too. Like if they wouldn't have rigged it so that Hillary was in instead of Bernie, like I would have been a Bernie guy. You know, I don't really fuck with Bernie anymore just because I've seen how like he's been. But yeah, like that's a crazy flip to go from like the socialist to Trump. You know, like that's no, totally.
Like CEO of Golden Toilets and like spending thousands of dollars on prostitutes. Like, like,
yeah, that's what I
dream.
What? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that's what everyone's like. You know, I've been in Europe pretty much a majority of his entire presidency, and you know, it like Europeans are more cultured or whatever, but like they're still getting the same kind of like propagandized news from the States, you know, like however it is, like you know, where I am in Kuopio, Finland, right? It's not like they have somebody that's in the US reporting, you know, so they have to still get it from some database or whatever. And so it's like I've gotten so tired of talking to the like Europeans, like, oh, Trump's so bad. And like, I'm like, listen, he's an idiot. Like my favorite quote, or my own quote, is like, the best part about Don is he says what he thinks. And the worst part about Don is he says what he thinks, you know, like that's how it was. And you know, it's where do you see, like you kind of said, like the assumption of where it's going, and I don't know, we kind of got off track. Where do you see things going right now?
So are you talking like based on just America in general, or are you talking about like parties specifically?
Because
I can give you both.
Yeah, I mean, take however you want to take it. Right,
however I want to take that.
Throw them kind of together if you want.
Where I see things going, well, Joe Biden is not going to unify the country.
No,
just flat out. The fact that he compared Ted Cruz and the other senator to Joseph Goebbels.
Oh, I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, he during a press conference after the Capitol Hill thing, he talked about how there were members of the Republican Party who were acting as propaganda ministers for Donald Trump, and like compared Ted Cruz to Joseph Goebbels.
Oh my God.
So no, there is no unification. That's not happening. Unfortunately, though, because here's the thing, like I think if it's going to be a two-party system, you need two strong parties to be able to stop like a monolithic one-party kind of thing. And the fact that the Democrats have all three branches of government and the Republicans are split scares the living crap out of me, because Joe Biden has carte blanche to basically do whatever the hell he wants.
Yes.
And
that means that whoever's telling him what to do has the power to do whatever they want.
Yeah. So that is an interesting one for me. With the Republicans, they're probably going to end up being split down party lines. Donald Trump has talked about starting a Patriot Party. He's not done in politics. He's definitely not done, because he's been talking about starting his own party. He's still there's like unnamed sources that are talking about how he's still in conversation with like people in Congress and Senate about trying to like move forward from this. Although I don't know if he will be fit enough to run in 2024, to be completely candid, because he's kind of an older guy, he's a bit bigger. And he's already
added out to the max too.
Yeah. Mans doesn't sleep. He's tweeting at 1 a.m, just freaking huffing Adderall. It's a complete savage,
dude. The amount of like, just again hijacking, going off on another the amount of like concern over his tweets is just like so wild. I mean, like, and the fact that like the president of the US uses Twitter to like get his message across.
Yeah.
Just, I feel like America's just turned into the world's reality TV show.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. I love it. However, with the Democrats, I mean, considering the fact that Antifa attacked the Democrat National Convention building in Portland the other day, like during Joe Biden's inauguration, doesn't really make me think that there's a lot of unity in the Democrat Party either, especially in the more radical factions. Yeah.
I didn't know. Like, I've done a pretty good job of like staying, I don't know how to exactly describe it, like ignorantly informed, or, like that makes it sound like I'm reading the wrong stuff, but trying to just know enough of the plot line, but without diving too deep into it. And so like the couple little things, like, I'm glad we're talking, because like I didn't even know about the Portland thing. I mean, the crazy thing for me, just as now I view myself almost as an outsider,
sure,
is like the both sides or both extremes or whatever you want to call it literally say the same thing, just in a different little way, like for take the Capitol storming thing, for example, is like, the left viewed it as like it's a threat to democracy because they're attacking the Capitol building and this and that. And the reason that the so-called storming happened was they were feeling like there was a threat to democracy.
Yes.
It's like, dude, I saw something on, I know I'm getting all my information off TikTok, which is, although that's how I got to you, which is kind of good. There's a lot more legitimate information on TikTok and Twitter if you can cipher through it, then
and find proper sources for it from an outside perspective.
Exactly. Then CNN and Fox, like that type of stuff. But like there's almost like this like double fish hook of like both extremes almost touch each other. It's just in this weird way.
I really, that's my hope, man, because like I really, really hope that the two groups in America that, and I'm not talking about like the fringe extremists who are like racist or crazy, or like people who like want to eat the rich or whatever, like the two crazy sides of the spectrum, but like MAGA, make America great again types, right? Red hat wearing dudes who like going to frat parties, and the liberal social kind of Democrat person who wants the same thing as the other guys. They just want to get to it in a different way, right? They all want prosperity. They all want a working democratic system. They all want their elected officials to work for them. They all want the corruption out of the way. Both of them wanted larger stimulus packages, right? Right. They all wanted the same thing. They just can't get to the conclusion the same way, and that's where the established politicians come in and cause the division, because then you got Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Mitch McConnell or Newt Gingrich talking to their base like, oh, we would be able to get this for you, but those stinky Democrats or those stupid Republicans, and then they go and they fight each other and they blame each other, and meanwhile the elite are sitting at the top siphoning all the money from the bottom and fucking over the American people, which then leads to thousands of people storming the Capitol with a fucking guillotine, right? Or like they had a noose or something like as like a prop to get the point across. And this is why CNN and the Democratic National Convention and Republicans went into overdrive trying to paint those people as just purely like conspiracy theory terrorists that were whipped up by Donald Trump and all those poor senators. Okay, this is telling for me. So let me go off for 2 seconds.
Go.
This is telling for me. So during that week after, if you watched all of the news, everything was from the perspective of the Congress people and the senators. And it was completely from the perspective of, we were scared. Think about how bad that was for us. Look at how, oh my God, this was terrifying. CNN did like a 1.5 hour, 2 hour piece on like minute by minute breakdown of what happened a week after it happened. And it was just like, Donald Trump is evil. Those people are terrorists, the poor senators and Congress people. Why are they trying to get you to be sympathetic towards the Congress people and the senators? Why are they working so hard to get you to be sympathetic towards the government instead of sympathetic to your brothers and sisters who are down there trying to fight to get something that they think that they deserve?
Exactly. Right? And at any other time, like they grouped all the Congress people together. No, there's no Republican Democrat in that sense. It's just all the poor Congress people.
Yes.
That in any other news story, it's going to be a division of
Yeah.
those same poor Congress people.
Yes. Yeah, they tried to make you feel sympathy for them and like they were the victims in the situation because they want to make sure that there isn't a second instance of that, because for the last 150-ish years, however long it's been, since like the Civil War or whatever, they're basically, and I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not empathizing with the Confederates at all, but
you have
but
to like make sure you
just
say that. Yeah.
phrase, slavery is bad. But since that time period, there really hasn't been a moment when the American people have gotten together to fight over something like this, and there hasn't, the Capitol building hasn't been stormed, I think, since the War of 1812. And so for the first time in a very long time, people who are in the positions of power in their ivory towers pulling the strings in the American political sphere were confronted by an angry group of people who are tired and sick of all of their money and their rights and their ability to freely associate and do their business and whatever being stripped away from them. And the one last thing that they believed that was going to protect them, who was Donald Trump, they believe that the election was stolen from him. Right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, that's what they like. And as I said, like, I haven't read every article and watched every video, but there are some, I mean, I think it's naive to think that any election has been 100% fair, like ever. I think like even in 2000 when Bush won in the recount or whatever, like there's been lawyers of the Republican side that were like basically said like, we just tried a little bit harder, than, in our own, that's take it how you want it. And so to think like anything's ever been completely fair in an election, like is naive, but man, there were some fishy things to me, like just hearing off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if sympathize is the right word, but I can understand like if someone that's their life, which I think is also a problem. If like, making who the president of the United States is your life, like, but I get if that is your life, then boy, you're going to feel pretty emotional about it and pretty serious about it. Like I play American football over in Europe. That's what I do. And like, when I get fucked on a call by a ref, like, man,
that hurts.
I get a little agitated, like I'm normally pretty calm and collected, but if there's supposed to be defensive pass interference and I don't get it, I'm mad, like, and if it would have lost me a game, then like I might walk after the ref and try and ask, hey, what was, like, so, I'm just trying to relate it to my own life. And so I get it, it's just, part of me wonders how, like, or if there was some like staging to it, like with the Viking fur dude, like that was like for him to become like the
face
picture guy. The face of it was weird. The way they just got in so easily. I've said on, I think my last solo one, that I feel like this could be, and you made a good point of like, to make sure it never happens again. This is kind of like it's not a false flag, because it did happen, but like there's going to be some little rules, some laws, I think, passed in order to really get this stuff, whether like I compared it, I mean, and I want to get into this too, is like I'm a bit of a conspiracy or alternative guy at times.
Sure.
And so like I said, it's like kind of like the 2020 or 2021, I guess, 9/11, because there's going to be some thing that comes about that's going to change something that maybe we won't really know, or like we won't really think about, but it'll affect things as we go on.
Yeah. And I think that's actually fair, right? Like, even if it wasn't, even because I don't think that, in the same way that I don't, like, just to be clear, in the same way that I don't think that 9/11 was an inside job, right? I do think that the Bush administration used 9/11 for the purposes of getting more political power and
Okay.
for instituting a lot of policies that probably wouldn't have been liked if 9/11 didn't happen,
For
right?
sure.
Um,
So,
in the
and
same,
for the record, I mean, like, I would be opposing and say, like, I think it is an inside job as
sure,
a, but like, we
yeah,
don't
yeah,
need to get exactly into why those things,
yeah.
but like, but totally is same way how you just said it, whether they wanted Trump to win or not, as soon as it happened, let's
They
use
used
it
him.
to our advantage,
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing that this is definitely going to end up being used to their advantage. I mean, it's unprecedented that 25,000 National Guardsmen were in the Capitol on the inauguration, right? That's weird.
It's more than Canada has in general.
Yeah. That's bigger than our actual our active duty military. Yeah, right?
That's,
So
how
that's a
in,
bit weird.
how insane is that, bro? Like that, when you really think like we had more in one place
Yeah.
than, I mean,
Yeah.
Canada's fucking big,
Yeah.
like,
Well, there's a reason. Actually, there's a big reason as to why we are so dependent on the states, and it's because they protect us from everybody. We like we don't have to have a military, because if Russia ever dropped through the northern shield, right, to try and take some of the land up north, we could just be like, oh, hey, America, uh,
hey, buddy.
hey, come help, and they'd be like,
But I
freaking
mean,
jets flying over.
that's how a lot of the world is, really, like that's where people don't. And I'm not, I think I would much rather we bring back the military. Like, I don't like our military
Yeah,
spending thing at all. But when people argue that, because we could pay for universal health care if we really wanted to, and all these free education, all these things that like Finland has, for example. But
yeah,
um we also have this like military that is, whether it's wanted or not, that's up for debate. Like, we're everywhere for the most part, I mean, very generally speaking. And so when you don't have to supply all of the bases and all those things, like, it
yeah,
makes universal health care and free education a little bit easier,
yeah.
and granted, I think Finland, I'm finally paying taxes here now. I'm like happy to pay taxes. It snowed a foot last night. I mean, like that, we got roads clear, like,
Yeah,
society works really well here, but there's also reasons for it.
yeah, yeah. Which I think is, I wish America would have that conversation in a way that was smart and nuanced like that. Like, hey, like, we could probably get these things if we traded off on these things, and if we did this, and how would this work? But it turns into like, oh, you don't want universal health care, then you're a fascist, and if you do want universal health care, you're a communist, and it's just
Totally. No, that's
dumb.
the pro is we're just so polar, and it's so black or white. And
Yeah,
like, that's what everyone here is like, well, they always try and use the Scandinavian countries as an example, and it's like, well, no, there's still capitalism. There are some differences, don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but like, I think the highest tax bracket here pays like 40% or maybe 45%. Like,
yeah,
if you're in New York now, you're paying more than that in the
yeah,
highest tax bracket. Like, there's similarities. It's not just like people think like, oh, people pay 80% taxes here, or
yeah,
it's on both sides have this like misinterpretation of what's really happening.
yeah.
And yeah, go for it.
Like, people, that's the thing though, but people don't take it all into consideration, right? Like, with a place like Finland, it's small geography.
Totally.
Right, people
Completely
are
homogenous for the most part.
yeah, completely homogenous for the most part. Smaller population, right, a connection to one of the strongest economic blocks, right, like, in human history. Like, I don't know if they're a part of the EU. If they're not, though, they're right next to it,
Yeah, no,
which,
they are.
right,
We use the euro.
so bada bing, bada boom. That's also incredibly helpful, right? America is the strongest economy in the world, but America is sandwiched between Canada and Mexico,
Yeah.
right? And Canada's economy is only like good because it trades with America. Um, right? Like, so there's a lot of stuff people don't take into consideration, right? It's always funny because Americans will, on both sides, like I remember watching a debate between Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz on universal healthcare
Mhm.
back in like 2017 or something like that. And I remember watching it and thinking, none of this is true. This is what? Like Bernie Sanders was like, oh, Canada's got great healthcare. Oh, we love Canada's healthcare. It's great. And it sounded like Trump anyway, but like, it's really,
That's
really
all you've been
good.
hearing the last 4 years.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. And, what Ted Cruz is saying isn't true. And Ted Cruz is like, oh, it's a fucking catastrophe. And and they're painting it in these two extremes. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's got upsides, right? Like I don't have to think about paying for insurance and whatever and stuff like that. But yeah, I might have to wait a few months to see a specialist, or I guess like this or that, but also this and that. But the way that they parsed it was either Bernie Sanders was talking about how glorious it was, or Ted Cruz was talking about how awful it was, and in reality it's mediocre.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, both the idea of like shades of gray is just becoming lost because, and I get it, because black and white sells. Yeah, I mean literally and
Yeah.
metaphorically speaking, like whatever the issue is, whether it's race or whether it's healthcare, the extremes are the ones that get people emotional.
Yes. Yeah. And it does suck, and it is funny because people will be like, well, what, Canada can do it, how can they do it? And it's like, well, we don't like, our military budget is like less than 1% of our GDP.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude,
Right.
and speaking of that, this is just a random thing, like, and I don't know if this is true or not. This was a long time ago, but I was at some bar in Seattle sitting next to this guy who said he was, on tour in Iraq for 8 years, or yeah, I was pretty drunk, so I can't remember the full details, to be honest. And he wasn't like a soldier. He was more in like logistics and almost like an accountant kind of thing. And we're kind of talking candidly about this stuff. And he said, and I'm asking how can we spend so much in this type of, and he's like, how much a stapler costs when they open up a new base? I'm like, no, what? He's like, $2,000. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, the stapler, we get however many staplers for the base. Each one is written off at like 2,000, maybe 1,000. It was an
a large
absurd
amount
amount for a stapler, like,
yes.
and it's like people don't get where and why it's costing that much, and then who is then benefiting from that incredible upcharge.
Yeah. And I don't know how true the precise numbers are, but I do know that when the government gets into spending money on things, there is often an issue or a situation when the price of that thing gets inflated because they know it's a guaranteed sale.
Aha.
Right. And in some instances and respects, it also doesn't work that way. Like, for example, with the Canadian healthcare system, people will be like, well, it must be more expensive. Well, actually, the Canadian government Canadians spend less on like buying medication personally, because the Canadian government bargains with medical, like with
like the
pharmaceutical companies. Thank you. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. The Canadian government bargains with the pharmaceutical companies to get the prices lowered, and then through taxpayer dollars pays for part of that lowered price.
Aha.
Right. So think of it as a union. So think of the Canadian population as like, what are we, like 34, 35 million people. So all 35 million people are bargaining with pharmaceutical companies, and the people who are bargaining are the government in kind of a union fashion. Right. And they're saying, hey, you want this thing. And the pharmaceutical companies would be like, oh, fuck you. Like, we're going to raise the prices. And they're like, Canadian government's like, fine, we'll go to this other pharmaceutical company to get a better price on it. And then all of a sudden prices come down, because it is kind of it's a, you know what I mean? Like they're actually bargaining on behalf of the Canadian people to get a lower price. And then through taxes, they pay for part of it, and then we pay part of it out of our pocket. So like, getting insulin doesn't cost an arm and a leg in Canada, because they go through that whole process to basically bargain on our behalf.
Yeah, and we have the pharmaceuticals companies paying the governments in order to not do that. I mean, I know it's more complicated than that,
Yeah.
but in one sentence. But shit, man, let's I want to know about you a little bit more. I mean,
Cool.
I'm super grateful to talk about this stuff because it's, I mean, to get someone that's candid about it, that'll speak their mind, not be scared to say some shit.
If I get canceled, I get canceled. It's life.
Dude, I mean, I keep saying the best thing that could happen to this podcast is if I get canceled. That means I'm getting to a level where people care enough, you know? Like,
yeah,
I think I have maybe like 40 or 50 people that are like pretty stoked and like pretty consistent. And I might be oversighting that, but like,
okay.
I got to just start thinking more mindset of abundance rather than scarce. I normally say 17s, but I'm now moving up into 40 when I say that. But yeah, shit, let's just like how this way that you are, we're like free speaking, free thinking, you know, I don't know, that's kind of cliche or whatever, but like what would you say attributes to you being you? I know that's kind of a weird question, but like, because I also know like you got the like theology background or like religious background and that kind of stuff. And I'd like to touch into that at some point too.
Sure.
But take that one for however you want. Like what do you credit yourself for being you?
Oh, geez, man, that is a difficult question.
Yeah, I'm actually really proud of myself for coming up with that. I didn't plan that. That was total spur of the moment right there.
Yeah, you should be proud. What contribute? A very specific set of factors and instances that happened in my life over a very long period of time that gradually grew me into the authentic and candid person that I am today. So it's not one thing, it's a set of things. And it took me a very long time to get here, and I went through a ton of different what I would consider phases, I suppose you could say, in the way that I think and in the way that I operate, and I'm still growing, obviously. And how I was raised to react to those things. My mom always used to say, because I would come home and I would get in trouble, and I would explain what happened, and she would always respond with, well, good, I'm not raising boys, I'm raising men. And you know, it was kind of this like affirmation of like, you know, men speak their minds, men are strong, men carry their burdens, men, like, I'm not raising little boys who are going to do what they're told, I'm raising men who are going to speak their fucking mind.
Ooh.
And it's interesting because I always used to be very upset about how I was what I was born into, right? I was born into like poverty, borderline poverty.
Okay.
Right. My father is disabled. My mother is a single mom, like working her best to take care of her kids. My younger brother is autistic, right? Like, so there's a lot of weird shit that kind of just all kind of happened when I was young that put me in a position of living in socialized housing, living in very poor environments, being surrounded by some not so great people. And you know, but I was always separate from it because my mom is she's a smart, stubborn Christian lady who is too proud to ever be like white trash.
Okay.
So I was surrounded by a bunch of like, you know, a very, I won't say white trash because there were tons of different kinds of people, right? There were white people, there were black people, there were brown people, there were indigenous people, right? In this kind of socialized project kind of thing. And but I was in that, but I was separate from it. So I learned a lot of the things that one would learn from that, but then I also like navigated it in a way that was like actually beneficial in the long term for me.
You say, what do you exactly mean by you were separate from it?
Like, as in, like, I never partook in like a lot of the stuff that happened in that
Okay.
that housing complex.
Gotcha.
Right? Like I would watch this stuff happen, but my mom was very diligent about protecting me from that. So like, you know, the neighbors' kids would be like, "Hey, we're gonna go do things." And I'm like, "Can I go?" And my mom would be like, "No," like, right. And now the people that like wanted me to go with them, I know a few of them, and like, yeah, they're fucking meth heads. Like,
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So you
know
were
what I mean?
there, but you weren't involved.
Yes.
Okay.
And like there's a lot of stuff that like happened to me growing up that made me like jaded and very like pessimistic, and then that influenced the way that I think, right? And I'm kind of critical in everything. But then also that I've had a lot of blessings that have happened in my life that have made me optimistic and hopeful, right? I I randomly got to go on an academic trip to Israel.
Oh shit.
Right. A poor kid from a housing project in British Columbia got enough money to be able to go to Israel and drink, you know, expensive fine wines and 5-star hotels with like people who have doctorates and talk about theology, right? What the fuck is that?
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah, that's like a movie that you couldn't even sell, you know?
Yeah. Like it's wild to think. And that's kind of how I ended up in the position that I am. Kind of this, it's almost like, you know, this furnace that takes a piece of coal and just like suffocates it and gets like a nice diamond out of it. You know what I mean?
Huh.
It's a cliche,
Yeah.
but it's a long, arduous process that got me to where I am today. And obviously I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the most well-educated. I'm not the quickest of wits, but the one thing that I do have that I think a lot of people don't have is wisdom and resilience.
And those are huge. And
Yes.
and from, you know, like I said, I don't know you from anything besides TikTok, which is like, well, that makes this a lot of fun for me. And it's like I can see through the camera that like there's authenticity, and like you're willing to admit you don't know.
Yeah.
And dude, that's so rare right now. You know, like everyone's trying to be an expert in everything. And it's like,
Yeah.
bro, it's okay to not have an opinion at times.
Yeah.
And so no, it's just I was curious because like I said, the subject matter that you have gotten into, that's like what appealed to me. And also, I mean, like I told you, the authenticity in general. I feel like there's always an interesting story behind it. And I was right. And like, so okay, this I'm kind of making light, like you say, trailer trash in Canada. So as you said that, I just immediately think Trailer Park Boys.
It's actually accurate.
Really? But
Yeah.
they're like, no, aren't they like Nova Scotia?
Nova Scotia.
They're
Yeah.
like other side, but similar in.
Yeah.
Okay, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen Trailer Park Boys live twice.
Really?
I love Trailer
Bro,
Park.
you're lucky.
Yeah. I mean, that was when I lived in North Dakota. My North Dakota roommate was always like, bro, you got to watch this. And I'm like, dude, this show is stupid. And then one joint later, and I was like, this is great, bro. You know, so, okay. So similar, I mean, so
like no guns, obviously, because that's not accurate.
Okay. Right. So, but oh man. So I don't mean to like make light of this
no,
stuff,
go ahead.
but
I make fun of it all the time.
But who then in that series would you most relate to?
Oh God. Oh fuck.
It's hard.
That's difficult. Part of me wants to say like the neighbors that like are always like watching, like when for example, like, you know what I mean? Like Ricky's daughter's driving the car and the neighbors are like
yeah. Because I mean that makes sense too. If you were like there but not really
a part
like,
of it.
They were involved. You know?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I've had so many funny moments happen in my life, like, and some pretty sad ones, but I've had some pretty fun ones, like where like I've come home, like my 19th birthday, my mom took me to the bar and just got me loaded. Right. It was like middle of the day. It was like a fucking Tuesday. Right. And I got home and there were cops raiding the apartment next to my house. And it was just like RCMP. And the thing was, I was growing weed at the time. So like, I thought they were raiding my house, and I like walk up completely smashed. And I was like, do you have a warrant? And the guy was like, yes. And I was like, interesting. Whose house is this? And he's like, this one. He pointed at the other house. And I was like, that's not my house. And he's like, yeah, it's not your house. And I was like, okay. And then I went inside. I went upstairs, and I just like went into my room, and I checked my little plants, and I was like, all right, they're all good. And I like went and I lied down.
Oh, you might be Ricky, the what is it, the hash driveway that they do. Oh my God, that's good.
Yeah, dude, it was and it's so funny too, just like the amount of things that I think are humorous, and then people will be like, that's not funny at all, and I'm like, oh come on, that's funny, right? Like there was I came home one night from a party, or no, sorry, I came home one night from church, and there was a party in the complex at like a house, and it's like small apartments, right? So, and there's like 100 people, so it's like overflowing. And I walk up to these two guys, and I asked them like, oh, who's having a party? And one of them was just kind of like, he referred to me as a slur for homosexual, and told me to mind my own business. And I was like, he was wearing one of those not Eddie Barry. He was wearing one of those like tap out hats, but it had a bunch of bedazzles on it and stuff. And I was just like, man, you can't call me that when you're wearing that hat. You are that thing. And they got up and they like, punched me or whatever. And I like went to my house and I told my mom, and my mom was like, well, what did you do? Did you deserve it? But one of the neighbors who was chilling outside was having a smoke. This old like white dude who like was like a labor worker saw it. And I was looking outside my window, like staring at them like, man, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to fight them. Fuck those guys. But then I noticed this white gentleman walking from house to house to house, just like knocking on doors of people that he knew. A little quick conversation. And all of a sudden, before I knew it, there was like 6 or 7 older guys who are like white labor dudes. And they walked up to this group, these 2 kids, and they were just like, which one of you N-words, punched that young man? And the whole, like, just everything, the whole tone changed. Like the whole party started to come outside, and it was these 7 like fucking old, like working class, just blue collar Joes, like yelling, like talking about like, getting the smoke, and like they're gonna like fuck these kids up, and like they're like in each other's faces, and I'm just sitting there like, like this is uncomfortable for me, because I'm the one who got assaulted. And like it just like it almost like everything started to get pretty crazy. And then my dad went outside because he called the police, and he went outside with his phone. He was like, you little fuckers, like I've called the cops, get the hell out of here. So kids dispersed, and in like 5 or 6 minutes the RCMP showed up, like fucking 8 dudes with vests on, just roll up, but it calmed down. But I think about that like with like, besides like the racism and the homophobic slurs, but I look back on that with fondness, because I'm like, man, people stood up for me. That's nice.
Ooh,
right? But yeah. I tell that story to people, and they're just like, what the fuck? That's not a positive story.
Yeah, I mean, until you said it like that, that's not where my mind was going. Yeah. I was going more like, holy shit, Trailer Park
That's terrifying.
Boys is right, like that's where I was. But that is an interesting, like, the idea that someone will stick up for me is,
yeah. I talked to the guy afterwards, and he even was like, dude, you made the right choice. You walked away. Like, they would have hurt you, but like, I couldn't let that happen in my home. Like, I just couldn't let that happen. So I needed to deal with it. And it was crazy to think like, oh, cool. Like people will stick up for me, and like my neighbors will look out for me, kind of thing. Yeah.
Whoa.
I was a young guy too. I was like 15.
How old are you now?
25.
25. Okay. Like I couldn't tell. I mean, because I've seen the bald and the stash, like I didn't know for sure. And like, that's interesting. I'm 30. And so I just compare numbers, I guess. It's like,
once you get past 25 and none of it matters.
No. Yeah. And especially now, like 30, everyone, when you turn 30, everyone's like, oh, it's whatever. Like they try and make it seem like the end of the world. Man, 30's been cool as fuck for me because I mean, maybe this is the age range of women that I can go for now is like completely more wide open, you know, from a very just manly way of saying that. And then there's, man, as you've said already, like age experience like breeds some wisdom, and by no means like do I think I got anything fucking figured out, but and I'll be curious, man. I'm excited we got to do this because I'll be hopefully we continue to talk because like
Oh yeah, dude.
it'll be cool to see. Like I feel like you're light years ahead of where I was at 25 in terms of my thinking. Like just for reference, like I would have, looking back now, like at 25, I would have for sure been like at the George Floyd protests and like I would have 100% been like can't breathe, like, you know, like, and not knocking anybody who did it, but like it just, that's not where I'm at now. Like I kind of see it for what I think I see it as now. And so no, it's cool, but as you said, you've had some trailer park boy experiences that I definitely haven't had that have probably shaped some things. And I grew up like completely middle upper class. Like I wouldn't say my growing up was hard at all, you know, like my parents made me work for some shit, but like two parent system, you know, like it, I had a good fucking upbringing, you know, like no lie. And
there's
so
nothing wrong with that either too.
No, not at all. I mean, and even with that, there's always some issues and there's always some things that are our own issues are always our own issues. And for me, my issues are way bigger than yours. You know, it's just how human nature and our brains work. But if you don't mind me asking, I'm just curious through this, like what you said your dad was disabled. Like what do you mean by that?
Oh, he has multiple sclerosis.
Okay. And and then that, maybe, sorry if I'm getting too
no, you're fine.
When did they separate? Like there was always a
when I was 5-ish.
Okay.
Okay.
And so like that last story though, you said your dad called the cop. Like this is where I'm at. It's like one story was mom brought me home drunk and the growing the weed, which
so my dad lived in the apartment below my mom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he needed a place to live, and he was living in a communal house situation.
Okay,
which was not great, but is what he could afford, right? And it wasn't terrible, but like some of the people there were kind of questionable human beings. You know, drugs and drinking and stuff. And he wanted his own space, and we lived in like this socialized housing situation. So my mom talked to the person who managed the housing block and got him on the top of like the waiting list because he's disabled and whatever. And they ended up moving him into the apartment that was directly below us.
Aha. So like even though they were separate, then you got to grow up with both of them very
like right around
present. Damn, dude. I mean, that like adds just another little sprinkle,
like a little layer, right?
Dude, another sprinkle layer of uniqueness to the max, you know, like, whoa, okay. Yeah, so I mean, interesting, dude. Like just to compare, contrast, whatever, like so my dad and mom lived together my entire life. And then as soon as my senior year of high school football ended, my dad was like my coach growing up, all that stuff. He moved to St. Louis to run his business, a musical instrument business, which if you ever need a musical instrument, I know I want to get into that too. I can hook you up for sure.
Cool.
And so like it was never the plan to move, but he moved. And so him and my mom have been not divorced, but not together for like 10, 12 years now.
Really?
Yeah. So like,
that's odd. And like, did they separate or was it just like he moved for business?
He moved for like, dude, it's fucking weird. Like I used to always tell people like, yeah, my dad lives in St. Louis now. My mom lives in Issaquah right outside of Seattle. And they kind of look at me and they'd be like, well, they're divorced. I'm like, no, not really. And they look at me like, oh, you're cute, you know, you don't know or whatever. And um my mom is the accountant for my dad's business too. So
Huh.
like constantly talking. And I finally, you know, after I don't know, maybe it was a couple years back, I'm talking to my mom on the phone. I'm like, yo, like, because I've realized, like, you know, how you view your parents' relationships affect your own relationships
Yes.
and, you know, that kind of stuff. And so I finally, I've, I've never been one for much long term type of things. Like, and then somehow anytime something serious, it always turns into a long distance thing, you know,
Yeah.
which you just heard what I grew up with in my growing
Yeah.
up years. And I finally was like, Mom, like, what the fuck's the deal? You know, like, are you guys together? Are you to, you know, like what, you know, and she was like, well, I mean, I don't know, you know, like we're kind of at my dad's almost 80, my mom's almost 70.
Wow.
And yeah. And so like, she was like, maybe if I was younger, we would have split up, but like, I'm not looking for anything, you know, like I'm good, you know, like I'm good with what we got going. And now he's like getting to the point where he's going to sell the business and maybe move back. And I don't, there's just it's a strange story, you know,
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to kind of know
Interesting.
something about yours. Was like, I
Yeah.
feel I have a interesting
Do you have
dynamic as
siblings?
well.
Do you have siblings?
I have two half brothers that are shit. How old are they now? 55 and 53.
Okay, interesting. And your parents, they got together and then they had you, presumably.
Yes, I was like the like miracle child in a way. My mom,
Would
I
have
mean,
had
like
you at
bless,
40-ish.
yeah, and she had I need to learn it, but she'd had some type of cancer before me,
Mm,
and there would have been an easy surgery to really get rid of it, but then she would have been infertile. And
okay.
she was like, no, I want a kid. And so she went through chemotherapy, went through some shit in order to do it. And then I was like the third or fourth after I think either I was after the second or third miscarriage.
Okay.
So like my mom fucking loves me. You know,
Yeah,
like
man.
that's the how I would just describe it, you know, and like
Yeah.
my dad too, you know, don't get me wrong, because my dad doesn't have super great relationship with his other sons of how like the split with his previous wife left.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I was in a way like a second chance for him to like really be a dad.
Dad. Yeah.
Um, and I mean, it's cool. Like me and my brothers, it's weird. One brother lives in Washington, the other one lives in California. And
Mm,
I'm like way closer with the one that lives in California than the one that lives like 30 minutes away from me. And
okay.
so we're like truly brothers, you know, like
Mm,
I remember he's pretty fucking rich I mean, both of them are really wealthy at this point in their lives. They grew up super poor and that was like their thing to do. Um, and it's like been an interesting thing of how I view money myself, because I've never
mm,
like that's never been my motivation. Um, but yeah, my brother was like the guy when I'm like 18, 19, would like get the sushi restaurant that he's a regular at to serve me beer. And you know, like
yeah.
he'd tip like 100%, you know, like, and they didn't really want to, but they knew they were getting hooked up, you know. So like
Yeah.
that brother was like the homie, and
Yeah.
growing up it was a lot of fun with him. And the other one, like, I mean, shit, man, now that I reflect on it, like the oldest brother, I'd never seen a more miserable person like growing up. And he was probably one of the most rich dudes I knew personally. But it was more so stemming from like the marriage. And then
Mm,
finally he got divorced from that marriage. And now he's super happy. But I think, like, as I said, I viewed money in like almost this negative way of
yeah.
like it, it in some way it equals unhappiness. And that's like my 2021. I'm not a resolutions guy, but that's my 2021 thing of like switching into mindset of abundance rather than mindset of scarcity.
Yeah.
And because
That's
I
actually
know
really
I've been affected.
that's really interesting too, because like I don't really like money either.
Mm.
But my distaste for money doesn't come from like seeing people being rich or and like miserable at the same time, or thinking that it doesn't cause happiness. My thing for money is I never had it growing up,
Right.
and I did just fine.
Right.
I'm right. Like it's so funny. People be like, oh my God, like oh, my parents, they're so broke, oh, they're so poor. And it's like, well, didn't you go to Hawaii like for the summer? Right. And meanwhile, I was
You
like
have the
eating,
new iPhone, don't you?
yeah, right. Meanwhile, I was eating like tuna casserole for dinner like every day for like 3 days, right? And but now as an adult, like it's like, oh man, I have a job and I have a little bit of money saved up, and I am making a little bit of money off Robin Skies, not much, but I'm making a little bit, right? That's good. That's all I need. That's my motivation. That's great. Like I have my needs met, and I'm gonna probably move out of BC because the Pacific Northwest is fucking expensive. I don't know if it's bad in Washington as bad as it is here.
I don't think
But
it is as bad as you, but I don't. I've heard BC is fucking crazy, but I
dude,
mean Seattle is probably just a step below, if not even.
yeah, Seattle's a slightly less expensive, more fun Vancouver. Um, that's how I explain it.
That's
But
so weird to hear too.
oh, some of the most fun I've ever had was in Seattle, man. Like just really good vibes. I dig the vibes because it's like it's so funny. It's so funny, man. Like in Seattle, the liberals are more liberal than in BC, and the conservatives are more conservative. It's so odd, dude. I went down there and I talked to people, and I'm like, the fuck? And they'd be like, "Oh, you're from BC though, right? Like, don't like Canadians more liberal?" I'm like, "Yeah, but that's insane. That's a crazy thing to say." Like, I've are you nuts?
No, I feel bad for my friends that are trying to stay in the middle that still
Yeah,
live in Seattle because, like you said, it's so, I mean, see, and it's more like liberal, obviously,
yeah.
but
But then
there's
when you go
still,
east, yeah,
you go 45 an hour east or not even, you go 30 minutes east and it gets pretty conservative, I mean,
yeah,
just where I'm from, Issaquah is only 15 minutes east and like it gets way more 50-50.
yeah,
Another more 15 minutes, it probably almost flips. And
yeah,
like, but hearing some of the shit that's going on, like I do love and I'm like super grateful I grew up there and like got to
yeah.
experience that. Like, you know, I think it's change. Getting old. It's changing, you know. But like the I don't know what I'd call it. Like just the acceptance normally of most, generally speaking, people was pretty cool there.
Mhm.
And being able to go 15 minutes into the city, 30 minutes into the mountains, you know, like
Yeah,
it's a cool area, you know, like that you
yeah.
can get to a lot of different places in a short amount of time. But I feel bad for some of my friends now that are trying to stay in the middle, and I'll get a Snapchat or like an Instagram story of like homeless dudes with like a bonfire on like the corner of like Capitol Hill, like central location, and
Yeah.
sending me articles about how like maybe homeless people stealing won't become a crime or like, you know, I mean, there's some things where you're just like, dude,
That's a little nuts.
this isn't what society need. Like
Yeah.
we could go about it in different ways.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, I think it's funny being so close to the whole American situation, but being outside of it, right? Because you're in Finland and I'm in Canada. So, Americans are like, we need to get rid of the police, and and I like we have some of that defund the police stuff up in Vancouver, but it's like incredibly small. Like nobody takes it seriously, and most normal people are like, yeah, okay, maybe we should like move funding a little bit somewhere else and like make some slight changes. But
Yeah. Yeah,
right,
maybe a little better training, or you know, and I mean
yeah,
like I've been a guy that has, I mean, if I get a little Facebook memory pop up, I've been posting police brutality videos
Yeah.
way before they were cool.
Oh, yeah,
You
me
know,
too.
like,
Back in the day, like 2013,
yeah.
2012. Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I know.
you know, like that was like the most hipster, non-hipster saying ever right there. You know, like I've been posting police brutality videos since, you know, before they were cool. And like, but I mean, I can remember when I was doing it back then, like the same people who were like defund the police were like telling me to shut up, basically. You know, like maybe
Yeah.
not verbally, but like not giving it the time of day. And so yeah, the idea of, and so I'm all for like, let's get some different structure or different
Yeah.
requirements. I don't know
Different
what.
strategies.
Yeah, different
Yeah.
strategy. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm not going to say I got the answers, but obviously some strategy needs to be changed. But to say like we don't need the police is
Yeah.
like, come on now, you know, like, come on, let's
Yeah.
but that's again back to the black and white. That's the
Yeah.
ultimate extremes of
Well,
like,
and that's the reason why, like, I think a lot of Canadians, like, so for example, you know, the whole Cascadia movement, right? The idea of like BC, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California being their own country.
right. Oh yeah,
A
I'm
lot
glad
of
you brought
a
this
lot
up.
okay, cool. A lot of people that I've talked to in like America are like, oh, it's a great idea. Canada, we could bring BC on board. I talked to a lot of BCers and they're like, no, hell
Yeah.
no.
Okay,
Hell
good. Yeah.
no. Like, are you joking? Like that, I like being Canadian. Being Canadian rules. Like, we don't want that.
if,
Um,
if I
so
was,
like
yeah, if I was
it's
Canadian
nuts.
too, I would feel the same way. I wouldn't want to get my stuff into that shit pot, you
No,
know.
no, and it's wild to me too, because it doesn't make any sense to try and separate when the logical conclusion is like, well, just fix your issues, just fix them. It's not that hard. Just vote in new people and like make good decisions.
And yeah, with this whole like COVID stuff, like it's just proven before whoever the governor was didn't matter, you know? And like
Hmm.
now it's like, oh shit, like, you know, California, Gavin Newsom, like it matters. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, motherfucker, like this shit, it does really, you know, it's like
yeah,
flip this switch in people's head that, oh my God, these titles and these people, I mean, in some little cities, like the mayor is a dog, bro, you know, like, dude, that's how you just, I mean, that's how you know you've reached a level of like life is good when
yeah.
a dog becomes the mayor, and
The
that's
mayor.
how like serious people are taking things.
Yeah,
But no, it's crazy. But like how I said, I'm glad you brought it up, is as I said, I was going through some videos of thinking things to talk about, and you said the idea of splitting the US into like three countries. Dude, I've been the last year or so or whatever been saying just like, even if to make it easier, like
hmm.
make the US like the EU, and every state is its own country or whatever.
Yeah,
And then, but then even within certain, you might even need to divide some states like, um, I mean, I guess just San Francisco, but even like California, like people don't get, Central California is so much different than LA and San
yeah,
Francisco, you know, like, and Western Washington is so much different than Eastern Washington. And
yeah,
I'm sure there's more places that have that
yeah,
similar. I mean, New York, you go New York to up north in New York, like it's way different. But
yeah,
the idea, like you said, is like there's such a divide and there's such a split that given the current like media climate, I don't know if like resolve is in the future, you know, exactly
yeah,
that
yeah,
it could just be easier to just be like, hey, we already have states' rights and federal rights, or state law, federal law, which like with like weed, for example, like makes no fucking sense at times when, you know, it'll be legal somewhere and then the feds come in and bust someone. And, you know, there's like this weird
mm,
kind of hypocrisy, or I don't know if that's the right word, but um, like confliction
yeah,
between states and federal They're like, hey, let's just, if this state votes on whatever they vote on, whether you agree with it or not, like, then you do get the chance of leaving that state or that country or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the original idea of the United States was the concept of the 13 colonies acting as independent, like their own independent little states,
Uh-huh.
right? And the federal is just there as like a unifying factor to be able to deter outside problems like England reinvading or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Just it's a unification thing. And it was never like the Fed was never supposed to have as much power and authority as they do currently, and they were never supposed to be able to do things that they are currently doing. So yeah, I mean, I obviously the more rational conclusion than breaking the Americas into 3 different countries or 4 different countries is the idea of like of the federal government just having less freaking power and authority, and that the president wouldn't matter who ended up really being voted in, right? Like it's because each state would be able to just make their own damn decisions. But that's not gonna happen.
No. We've came too far in this reality TV show that the president just matters way too much.
Way too much.
To
Yeah,
think
it's
that
great. It's crazy
one
too
guy
that
is ruling 300 plus million is just baffling.
yeah, and it's insane to me that we're at the point now where the 2 best choices for president is a geriatric old fuck and a incredibly offensive, pompous businessman. Those are your 2 options, right? It drives me crazy. Just to, and like why couldn't you know who I wanted? I wanted Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
That's who I wanted. I wanted
Yeah.
those 2 to run as president and VP. Whoever, whichever one would be better in the said position. I would probably put Tulsi as president and Yang as VP, just because like I think Tulsi's had a lot more experience being.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know too much about either, but I know that among people that I respect their opinion regarding this matter, both people normally have good things to say about both people. So that's where I would agree.
Yeah. And I think they would have been great for unifying, but whatever, it's fine. Hey, Tulsi, if you can hear this, please team up with Andrew Yang for 2024, run as independents, and please kick Joe Biden out of office. You could do America could do much better than him. Come on.
Dude, I mean, there's the idea. I mean, when it becomes just anyone but Trump, anyone but blank, that's a scary slogan.
Bad precedent to set.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's crazy. No, I got to look more into, like I said, I try and stay just knowing enough without because I've through the years, when I first turned 18, like that election, Ron Paul was running and I was a big Ron Paul guy. And I fucking love Ron Paul, man.
Dude, the original Bernie Sanders.
Dude, he's so great, man.
I love Ron Paul.
And he's just stuck to his guns his entire life. And ultimately, anytime, and it's happened more or less in the last year or 2. I mean, more so just because of lockdown and I have nothing else to do. But like anytime I get too invested, I just get mad, man. Like just angry. And then I'm like, I have to take a step back and I'm like, one, I don't even live there.
Yeah.
Like, dude, chill out. Like I really, and even if I did, like, I guess it does matter to a degree, but then as soon as, if anything, you start giving your power to somebody else over your life, you're not gonna be able to do the, like, you're giving your power away. I mean, that's how I said it.
That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I'm the same way, man. I'm not even an American citizen. At least you have a point because you're an American citizen. Like, this sort of affects you, right? I think for me, I've just always been jealous of America and I've always wanted to live there. I've oh God, I would be like, you guys don't know how lucky you are. Like, I grew up in BC, and like, what are my options for moving outside of BC? It's like Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, the Atlantic provinces, and the territories.
You got Toronto.
Right?
Toronto's cool, or no?
Yeah, Toronto's pretty cool, I guess, but it's also expensive, right?
Okay. Okay.
So like there are 5 or 6 cities in Canada that I think would be like I would be willing to move to, but only like 3 that I want to move to,
Right.
right? Outside of Vancouver. So it's like Toronto, Calgary, maybe Montreal would be like my 3 that I would want to
Okay.
move to. But if I were an American, it's like just whip out the map. It's like, where the hell do I want to go? Do I want to go to Seattle, to Portland, California, San Francisco, or LA, San Francisco, Philadelphia, New York City, Miami, freaking
Down to Austin, you can go to
Austin,
Texas, like,
Dallas,
yeah,
Colorado, right?
yeah.
There's an endless just sea of opportunities and just and options and it's like, oh, I don't like how liberal San Francisco is. I will move to a city that is more I will move to Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah. And
You
like
know what
you
I mean?
can be like, what kind of weather do I like?
Yeah.
Because you have no choice. Like you're
Nope.
getting, I mean, I guess Vancouver's like the most mild, right? Like,
Yeah, it's still rain all year.
yeah, still, I mean, yeah, but everywhere else, like it's snowing, like you're cold in the winter. And
Yeah.
like, at least in the States, you're like, okay, I can go to Arizona. I could go to Texas. I could go to Florida, like I
Yeah.
can avoid what weather do I like?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I do like snow. So I guess, but I like snow, but I also like wide open spaces and mountains, and I also like nice hot summers. Ding 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 ding. I'm gonna go to Montana. Boom. There we go.
For sure. Yeah,
Right?
no, Montana is a good spot. I've I've only just really driven. I've been arrested in Montana, actually, now that we talk about that. And other than that, I have not done much in Montana
What
besides
did you
driven through it.
do? What did you do to get arrested?
I've never told this story on here.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm glad we're an hour in because then viewer retention's only at about 20% right now. So sorry, Mom, for telling this story. But when I was going to school back in North Dakota, I went to University of North Dakota, and driving back during the summer, and I don't really smoke weed anymore. But as you may be able to tell by my appearance and voice, like I used to smoke a lot.
Yeah.
And so North Dakota had shit weed, and all of my buddies growing up, once we graduated high school, started growing weed by themselves or with their dads. And so basically, long story short, is I brought like 2.5 ounces back with me to North Dakota, and I kind of had it set up where I got a real good deal on it, and I could flip one of them and
Yeah.
have the other 1.5 ounces for free. And
Nice.
it was nice and nice, but I stopped in, where did I stop the night to sleep? I stayed at a friend's house in Idaho. And so at night I went out and like I had them all jarred up, like in the like spare tire compartment. I mean, like you wouldn't, and my trunk's full, like you wouldn't have been able to find it if you were searching. But I went out the night before, smoked a little chillum before I went to bed, forgot to put it back. Started on my way the next day, got pulled over going like 10 over or something.
Yeah.
And I had my chillum still in the dash glove compartment.
Oh
And
man.
like this is what's fucked up. Like my car doesn't smell. I went to hide it, thinking, I don't know what I was thinking, like
Yeah.
just
Oh, I could get
paranoid.
away with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like and so I went to like hide it like under my seat. And so the cop like kind of saw that I was
Fidgeting.
and so I'm pretty sure he thought I had a gun, like an unlicensed gun or something. And so I essentially got bullied into getting my car searched. And I'm thinking, I know the Jay-Z song, like you need a warrant for the trunk and all that kind of stuff. And I guess they don't, I don't know. And so they opened my trunk and I'm thinking, okay, well, it's still in a good spot. And then like, I'm literally
It
like
dawned on you.
handcuffed on the side of the road. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, fuck, I didn't put it back. And like the cop at this point, like I was kind of cooperative. And so he
Yeah.
was like, I think getting ready to be like, all right, sorry.
Yeah.
And I just hear clink, clink of the jars smacking together. And he looks over at me And he's like, yep. And I don't even really remember what he said, but so went to jail in Anaconda, Montana for,
Damn.
I think it was around noon or so, or maybe 11 when I got taken in. And yeah, man, that was a interest. Anaconda, Montana. I'm sure a lot of places claim this, but the two guys that I was in the cell or little holding area with said like it's like the meth capital of the world. And
Nice.
one dude was like, or meth capital of the states, and one dude was this old guy named Doug, and I will remember this forever. And he asked me what I was in for, and I said, possession, and gave him the story. I play football at North Dakota. He's like, dude, call your coach, like someone will get you out of here. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work exactly like that, and so then I flipped the script. I said, what are you in here for? And he said, I'm going to hell. And I said, okay, well, I don't need to ask any more questions then.
All right,
that's
yeah.
that answered my question. And the other kid was like 18 or 19 with like no teeth, or like teeth, but no teeth from meth use, basically.
Yeah.
And dude, I can really, like, it's crazy. I can remember it to this day. I was probably 8 years ago. He was like, dude, he's like, when you get out of here, like, you got a chance. Like, you can do something with your life. He's like, me, I'm fucked. This kid, and he like he knew this kid from like his stepdad was this dude's friend. I mean, it's a little
Yeah.
town. He's like, this kid, if he doesn't stop using meth, he's fucked. Like,
Yeah.
we're fucked. You got a chance in life. Like, go do some, like, I'm getting motivationally speak by a guy who just told me he was going to hell,
Yeah.
like it was, and
That's
so
wild, dude.
dude, it was crazy. Now that I guess I think about that, but I haven't told that story in a long time. And, but the of all places, I mean, my stars aligned just in the right way. Of all places to get arrested for weed possession is Montana, because the limit of misdemeanor to felony is 70 grams, which is like higher than any state by like 20 grams pretty much. And I
Nice.
had 2.5 ounces, which is 56. I had a little over 70. They didn't weigh, they just gave me the misdemeanor. And so
Nice.
like I was talking to the lawyer and I was like, hey, I kind of got bullied into getting the car searched and yada yada. And he goes, well, and I think I explained to him, I think I had more than the limit or whatever. And maybe this guy was just trying to get an easy job. He was like, well, if we challenge it, they can go back and weigh it, and then they can try and charge you with a felony. And I was like, yeah. Take the misdemeanor. Yeah. Like, we'll take that for sure. And so that was my event, dude. That was, holy shit. Now that I think, my car was supposed to get impounded. It never did. I had to, because my dad bailed me out at like 9:58, and the last minute you could bail me out was 10.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking down these streets of this small fucking town. I have my phone, find some hotel like a mile away, some shit motel. I stay there. I walk back to the cop station in the morning to like figure out where I can get my car. My car is just sitting there in front of the cop station. I walk in, I say like, hey, I forget what I said. They just gave me my keys. And I kept driving to North Dakota.
Crazy, dude.
I ended up hitting a deer and totaling my car later that day.
Wow.
Talk about like the worst 48 hours of my life.
That's insane.
Yeah. And, but then another lucky thing of I hit the deer in the bumfuck middle of North Dakota, which I mean, that's where North Dakota is in general. And there was one tow and it starts thunder and light. I mean, at this point, dude, I am like, I've had probably 2 mental breakdowns in my life. This is one of them. I am like thinking at this point, like someone's going to hit me on the side of the road the way my luck is going. But in the middle, everywhere in 100-mile radius, there's one tow truck company it's the next exit down.
Hmm.
And so he got there in like 5 minutes. The hotel in the one little town was totally full. And I just asked the guy, the tow truck guy, like lived at his house was at the garage. And I was
Hmm.
like, hey, is it cool if I just like sleep in my car here? And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Dude brings me out some blankets and like some
Oh,
cookies, you know,
that's so
like,
nice.
dude, like it was. And then I had a buddy come pick me up. I was still like 4 or 5 hours from Grand Forks, or so, maybe 2, 3 hours. I don't know. North Dakota's a big state.
Hmm.
And had a buddy come pick me up the next day and drive me back to Grand Forks. And then I ended up finding a car that was identical. Part of my story I didn't tell of why I think the cop was suspicious. I was driving a 99 Lexus GS 300 on 20-inch chrome rims, so I looked like a drug dealer. Like I looked like a gangster. And um I ended up finding the exact same car 5 miles away from my dad's house in St. Louis for cheaper than the insurance money gave us. And so
Wow.
I got another one like that.
That's wow. That's wild, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn. I appreciate you. Yeah. I haven't told that in so long, and never really in like that, like, completeness. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, dude, you're welcome. I liked that story. What ended up happening with the misdemeanor? Did you just get like a slap on the wrist and like let go? Like, was there any punishment from it?
More or less, yeah. I mean, ultimately, it kind of fucked me over for foot. I mean, I wanted to transfer from North Dakota before all of this happened,
Hmm.
and it kind of like, I guess it wasn't the actual reason that I did leave, but it like it came to be a great reason for leaving, because the coach, and that's another long story that's not even as good as this one, so I don't want to say it, but like the coach was going to screw me with it,
Hmm.
like when he needed it, basically.
Yeah, I
And
got you.
so like, and I found out that from another coach on the staff like a year later. And
Yeah.
so it all like, I've had a really, as I'm sure you have, as I'm sure everyone has, I've had a very like windy road of like, if this doesn't happen, I don't meet this person. If I don't meet this person, I don't go there, yada yada yada. And like, it's gotten me to this place now where like I'm so grateful to be.
Hmm.
And that instance is definitely like a major dot on the timeline. You know what I mean?
Crazy. That's wild, dude.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, it was, boy. I'd gotten arrested once, like my junior year of high school, for smoking pot, and
Hmm.
um, yeah, those two times definitely had some. Those were major dots, but
Yeah.
like ultimately, like I said, got me here, so it's cool to get
Yeah,
here.
dude. I mean, that's the thing. Like, no matter how difficult the road is to get to the place that you're at, as long as you get to the place that you're at, it's kind of worth it.
Yeah, and like the it's totally cliche, but it's like the really dark nights always lead to the most beautiful sunsets. If like
Yeah.
you can keep that positivity
Yeah.
amongst you, and like believe in it, that you
Yeah.
are going to get to the next morning. Because like how I even kind of got to Europe was another one of those like ex-girlfriend, like crazy, in like I said, two mental breakdowns. Sorry, I'm hogging the conversation at this
No,
point.
dude, you're fine.
Like basically like a college girlfriend, just graduated, working a shitty job, all came to a boiling point,
Hmm.
and it led me to accepting a contract in Portugal for like no money, like
Hmm.
literally no salary, like they just pay for me to get there. And I had offers in other countries for actual salary, like to live. And I was in just such a bad space. It was like, okay, I can go to Portugal in a month, or I'd have to wait to go 6 months to Germany. And I was like,
Yeah.
get me the fuck out of here. And that, again, making that decision was, I credit one of my greatest decisions I've made, so
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool. And
Wild.
you don't know when they're gonna happen.
Yeah, you never do, right? You never know when these things are going to happen. And that's kind of been like, for me, for like music, for example,
Yeah.
that's been a very big motivating factor for me to continue going on, on the days where it's slow and like
Yeah.
nobody's listening, nobody cares, right? TikTok's flop. But you never know, man. You never know what's going to happen. I made one TikTok video that did well musically, and like all of a sudden, like it kickstarted something where like I'm like, oh, cool, like I have a consistent audience now. It might not be the highest, and it goes down and it goes up a little bit and it goes down. But that's the thing. Like, it's like, oh, cool, that one moment, right?
Yeah, maybe. And that honestly might be, I don't know. I can't remember what the one that got me onto you was, but give me a little background with the music. I'll be honest, I've maybe listened to one or two songs,
Yeah.
and I dig them. Like I
Cool.
like what I don't know, my musical jargon isn't super, but like how you kind of sampled like some weird shit, like weird, like it's not lyrics, right?
Sure.
But like there's
All these
lyrics.
weird little pitched out like vocal bits and all that
Yes,
stuff.
yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, like I dig that. Like, cause
Cool.
that's some creative shit to the max in order to like hear something that isn't sounding probably in the way you put it in, but like
Yeah.
knowing like, yo, I can
I can do
put
this
it
to it.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Well,
like
thank you.
how'd you start getting into music? Or shit,
Uh,
hey bro, do you mind? Let me take a piss real quick. Is that cool?
yeah, dude, go on. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll just sit here and I'll talk into the microphone and I'll just say random crap for the next like
Okay,
2
cool.
minutes.
Yeah. You give yourself some samples, for the next track.
I will. Hello to the podcast. As our friend goes to the washroom, I will tell you a small story. I will regale you with a small story. One day, on a dark January morning, I was walking to the train station to go to school, and I was on my way to the SkyTrain station, when a skunk ran across the road. And it saw me, and I saw the skunk, and the skunk saw me. And I said to the skunk, "Oh, please don't spray me. Oh, skunk, oh, please don't spray." And the skunk looked at me straight in the eyes and said, "Hey, oh, bitch, I'm not going to spray you. What are you, gay?" And then it ran away. And that's the story of the skunk.
All right, I'm back.
Hello.
Oh man, yeah, that was like if I get to the point where I actually have to pee, like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
got a
get it.
small bladder, so I don't know what
Dude.
you're
I mean,
talking about.
I can hold it. Like I'll do cross country or cross continent flights and just
Yeah.
be good. But when I do, I mean, it's 9:40 for me. This is my Friday night, so I've had like one or two beers. I think that
Yeah.
kind of maybe was also a part of it too. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. So okay, getting back, and I hear some story about a skunk. You just
Yeah.
I'm
I
literally
thought I would
pissing.
just.
I'm like listening. I'm like, don't spray me. I'm not gay. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
You'll have to listen back to it later.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait. But yeah, okay. Resetting. Get like, what was the first? How'd you get into music? What was the first or the origin story of that? Give me episode 0.
So I never really cared about music growing up.
Okay.
Although my family was really into music. My mom raised me on musicals, operas, weird ass stuff. Because that's what she was into, and my dad was into like Twisted Sister and like classic dad rock bands from like the 80s.
Okay.
Right? And I didn't really care much for it growing up because I was more interested in riding my bike and just vibing. But they forced me to get piano lessons, and I did that and stuff like that. And it's weird too, because like I have a history in my family of people being like musical and artistic. Like my grandmother worked in the film industry for a while, doing background work and makeup, and she produced, wrote, and directed a play about a movie or a play based on a vampire movie, like a Dracula movie from like the 70s that like
Okay.
went on in Vancouver for like 6 weeks or something like that.
Whoa.
And like, hold on, let me see if I can find the guy. It was based off of Frank Langella, Franklin Frank. Yeah, Frank Langella's like Dracula from like 1979, and he heard about it, so he's like an actor or whatever. He
Okay.
heard about it and he ended up moving to he ended up coming to Vancouver to see it live. He became friends with my grandma. Like they became like fairly good friends and stuff, right? So like I have like a history of like arts and music and stuff in my family.
Okay.
And like my dad was in a band that almost got signed in like the 90s, right? In like Ontario. So like it's in the blood. And but I didn't care. And they tried to
Dude,
force me
this
into it.
is you are Trailer Park Boys. Holy crap. It's so cool. Like,
Thank
oh,
you.
it's awesome.
uh, Damn, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So like I didn't really care, but they forced me into it for a while, and then finally in middle school, I I I got into so in middle school I got into a lot of trouble, and I got expelled in my 8th grade for like smoking weed and cigarettes and like telling the vice principal that she was a bitch to her face and stuff like that.
Damn,
Just a,
smoking weed in 8th grade?
yeah, yeah,
Whoa.
it was my life, man. So my mom was like, "Hey, so you are not going to Riverside because that was the school in my town that was closest to my house. You're going to Terry Fox,
Okay.
and because I don't like your friends at Riverside, but people that we go to church with go to Terry Fox. So you're going to Terry Fox to make friends with the church kids." And I was like, "Okay." Um, which one of the best decisions my mom ever made, because I like these guys are now my best friends, like some of my best friends into adulthood. Like they've been with me this whole time. But at the school, they had this thing called Rock the Fox, but it was actually like it was just a contemporary music program.
Okay.
It's an award-winning program. Like our music teacher won a Juno, which is like a Canadian Grammy
Mm.
for this program, um, and it's birthed some
Juno,
like
like Alaska Juno?
yeah, like Juno, like a Juno award.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he won a Juno for this program. Like it's a renowned music program in Canada, and I had no idea what I was stepping into, like no clue. So my friends were in it, and I was like, well, that sounds fun, I guess. So I'll do this. I got in, I started learning bass. I got roasted so hard, so often, because it's a bunch of like high-minded, like A-grade musicians at this point. Like I was a part of like a class that birthed. There are a few musicians that are actually like uh relevant and notable that like came out of this, and a few bands that came out of this. Like there's a guy named Jonah Yano. I say his name a bunch. I went to high school with this guy. I never hung out with him. He was not friends with me at all, but I say his name all the time because I'm so proud that he's someone who came from my town
Okay.
that like made it.
Jonah Yano.
Yeah,
Sorry. It's a
exactly.
shitty
One
joke.
day I'm gonna run into him. I'm gonna meet him, and he's like, "Bro, you've been saying my name. Shut the hell up." I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I don't mean like I'm not saying we're friends. I'm just saying like I'm proud of you and I'm proud of our town, like having you, and I want to be on that list. Like I want to be
Yeah.
one of the guys that comes from this program. I want this badly.
And
So
Canadians are proud of Canadians.
yes.
I've noticed that. That is a thing.
Yeah.
I lived with a guy from Windsor, and like anytime a Canadian guy made the NBA or NFL, like, hey, that's a Canadian guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, we're big on that, man. So he's really, really talented kid. But I was in this program, I got like roasted hard, whatever. So it forced me to actually like try and to care. But I caught the bug, right? Because like the final project of the year is basically like the rock school program. There's a theater associated with the school, and the whole point is you basically form bands in this program, you learn sets, and then we put on a production at the end of the year, like a show, right? And so I got to go on stage and like sing like my heart out and play bass, and like it was a good time, and I was like, holy crap, this is fun. I enjoy this.
Uh-huh.
um it was embarrassing. I've watched some tape of it from like, you know, no, awful. I got my mom to take it off of YouTube. Like there's no way. um but you know, that was just that was a thing. So I caught the bug. I loved music. I started rapping because I wasn't confident in my singing voice.
Okay.
And then one of
Dude,
those
we have some
moments,
weird similarities. I got some bars myself back in the
every
day.
white guy that smokes weed tries to rap over a lo-fi beat off of YouTube. Come on.
Always. You if you didn't, you really didn't smoke weed, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah. Those like lo-fi like trap beats or whatever, like they exist specifically because of us.
exactly.
Um, so this is another one of those moments. So like I did I was into the music thing, and I really enjoyed it, and I did the rapping thing a little bit, but I never really went anywhere with it. I didn't learn music or anything, and I was smoking a lot of weed. And one day I went to a 420 celebration
Okay.
with, because Vancouver's got a big 420 scene, right? 420 celebration with a friend of mine, and I ran into another acquaintance of mine, and he was like, "Hey, like me and my friends are gonna go see Travis Scott tonight, like in the city. Do you want to come?" And I looked at my other friend. He's like, "Ah, no, I don't want to." And I was like, "Okay, well, you know, who's coming to hang out with you?" And he was like, "Oh, you know, a few people." And I was like, "Do you mind if I like leave to go with them? Because that seems like fun." And I, you know, he was like, "Okay." So we split, and I went with this new group of guys. Never met any of them before except for the one acquaintance.
Okay.
And I'm talking to them, and I had a weird moment too where I was like really high, and I was like sitting there and watching as one guy was having a conversation with another guy, and then we all left, and I turned around to say something to the guy who was having a conversation with the other people, and he wasn't there. And I was like, huh? And like I thought I like imagined him, and I was like freaking out. Turns out he's a real person. We're friends now. Like he just like left, and I didn't notice. But so we end up going back to our homes, getting dressed, getting ready. We took a taxi into the city, um, get a couple packs of beer. We sit outside of like this alley drinking beer, and we're like freestyling together, right? And I've never done this before. They put on a beat, I start going off, and they were like actually like impressed. They
Like
were
true
genuinely,
freestyling too.
yeah, just off the top of the dome. I
Oh
was just going
damn.
for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would always have to like pretend that I was free. Like I had maybe like 12 writtens
yeah,
that, you know, could apply to whatever beat got put on. And that's I could impress that way, but I could
yeah.
never freestyle. So props to you.
Thank you. So I did that, and they were like, "Man, this guy's impressive. Who is this guy?" And when we went and we saw the show, and as we were leaving, one of them was like, "Oh, hey, like I'm in like the production and recording program at like Nimbus, which is like it's a recording school in Vancouver that's very well known." And I
Okay.
was like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "Do you want to come into the studio and start recording?" And I was like, "Okay."
Okay.
So
I think, yeah. The answer
yeah,
is yeah,
sure.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that, and for a while I became friends with those guys, and then, you know, over time, like I realized, like, you know, I don't have a lot in common with these guys. We're not, you know, there's good and bad with them. The recording thing was kind of up in the air. It was kind of just not great. Good group of guys. I'll never talk trash about them ever. But, you know, there was just some friction there, and there was
Okay.
also some work issues in the sense that like I had a different motivation from them, and we had different ideas of what working meant, and I think I took it a little more seriously than them.
Gotcha.
Um, and one day we were recording back at their place, and I just did this like this rap, and it was like right after I became a Christian again, and I didn't like it, but they loved it, and I was sitting there, and it was just I felt so like gross and like bogged down, and like I wasn't in the right situation. This is a long story, by the way, so like
Yeah,
hold
no,
on.
let's I hogged it for a take the ball, bro.
Cool. So
And won it.
so I left. Like I had this little voice in my head that said, "Get the hell out of there, leave." So I did. I left. I called them. I left like a bunch of messages because like I was like emotional, and I was just letting it all out, like all this pent up negative energy. I just let it out, and I regret that. That wasn't right of me, but I did it. And they didn't want to work with me anymore, and I didn't want to work with them, and that was it. And I said, okay, well, I guess I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to be doing music anymore. So I went to Bible college instead. And in Bible college, I met a guy who goes by the name of Not Clyde, really young, really smart young rap artist. And he was like, hey, well, you can rap on a few of my songs. So I did. And then he encouraged me to make my own music, so I did. And then he encouraged me to get like a recording software, so I did. And then I started learning it, and I started making my own beats, and I started producing music like Christian hip hop under a different name that I will
Okay.
not name right now. And I
Why? It's
started really,
embarrassing or
yeah,
why?
it's, well, because like I like going back to it and listening to it, but like at the same time, part of me is like, I don't want other people to go listen to it
Okay.
because it
Okay.
is kind of, it's a bit cringe.
Well, if you
Um,
want, I would be curious. Send me a message with it, and I
I'll send you a
if
link.
okay, if yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I'd be I
100%.
because yeah, okay.
And I started doing that, and I started to get a small little following, and I started to get, little publications here and there, and this all that stuff. And I but I just couldn't make it anywhere in it because like the Christian music sphere is just, it's weird. It's kind of gatekeepy.
Right.
It's not, it's like very like like niche, and it's very tight knit. So like I upset and offended another artist, which ended up kind of hurting my relationship with other artists, and it's just this weird kind of dynamic. So I was like, all right, you know what, this isn't for me. I don't even really enjoy rapping anyway. I feel kind of fake because like I'm a white kid from like what would be considered the suburbs to an American, right? Like I grew up in a housing project, but
Dude, you're J-Rock.
yeah. Yeah, I go from Ricky to J Rock to Julian, I swear.
Dude,
Um,
I spin rhymes like a lazy Susan.
so
Dude, I haven't watched Trailer Park Boys in so long, but I've just
yeah.
watched so many that
Oh yeah.
like it's up there, and to be able to talk to someone that like
Gets the
you
references.
like have like true experience and know what I'm talking about is
Yeah.
like so cool. So
Nice.
sorry, I just every time there's been
You're
like
good.
2 times where I'm like, I gotta say that, but I had to get that one in.
Nice. And yeah, just to kind of cap it off, like 2018, I was in Israel. I decided that I was sick of making music under this rap name, and I decided Robin Skies was born that day. I made an Instagram account. I started working on music in Israel for Robin Skies. I released my first Robin Skies track, which was not very good, but a lot of people seem to like it. Uh,
Okay.
when I got back from Israel, and then I've just been on this journey ever since.
And where does the name Robin Skies come from?
My middle name is Robin,
Okay.
and
Yeah, because I
Skies
was
just sounded nice.
it is dope. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
because yeah, I was wondering like when I don't know if you want me to, but like when I saw
My
the
real name popped up.
real name wants to enter the chat, I'm like, what the fuck? Like what
Yeah.
am I? Yeah, it's
Who
got
is
to be
this?
him.
Yeah.
Like so. Okay, cool. Yeah, Robin's good choice. I like
Thank you.
that. It flows, and it's like believable that it's your name.
Yeah.
So it works in like two good ways. So interesting. So okay, I got a couple questions. First, I don't know how to go. The Israel thing.
Hmm.
Or actually no, first, so give me, while you're in Israel, you said Robin Skies is born. Like what's the setting? Like give me the like mindset of how it came to be and why, and like where you were at, like how it all blossomed.
Okay. Um, long story short, my entire life I had been stuck in BC,
Uh-huh.
and then all of a sudden I was somewhere that I would never thought I'd ever be.
Okay.
And when I was there, I realized, huh, I don't need to keep doing things the way that I feel like I need to keep doing things. I can do them the way that I want to, and I can succeed.
Hmm.
Because if I can go from my humble upbringing to sitting, next to the Sea of Galilee, staring out at the night sky, um, I can change my damn artist name and start making music that I actually enjoy.
Ah, damn. That's like it almost sounds like a psychedelic trip without the psychedelics.
Yeah,
Like that's that's cool, man. That's
I think
I
so.
mean, I man, it's part of the podcast blossoming, part of some of my other stuff blossom. Like I've always had some weird like subconscious or concern about what random motherfuckers thought, whether it be like a cousin or a friend from high school or whatever, that like kind of really kept me back from doing it. And the reason I said the psychedelic experience without the psychedelics was like the first night I ever did acid, like I ultimately realized like, yo, I'm the star of my movie, you know, like the same way you're the star of your movie.
Sure.
And like in combination with how I said all these different little events and dots coming together in order to reach this point, and for me to be in that spot at that time to realize what I'm realizing, like it's a special thing. And it kind of like brings this like confidence or lack of care about what everyone else, like I'm gonna do me, and like to be unapologetically myself. And that's how I kind of now describe this shit when I'm explaining, because it's hard to explain this podcast to people, because man, I've had 12-year NFL veterans on, I've had a comedian on. The last guest I had on was a former pastor of 10 years that I met in Portugal, American guy. I've had now one of my homies from high school who's like now kind of big game Twitch gamer, you know, like I don't have a niche. I don't have a demographic. Like I just try and get motherfuckers on that are themselves and like have, damn, maybe realized, I'm coming to these ideas now, like realize that they're the star of their movie, you know? And like, so it's cool to hear that, you know, like, because that sounds very oddly, I was in Venice Beach with the Pacific Ocean, and you know, like there's some weird little similarities there, you know, which like not trying to like hop on the coattails or anything, but
no, dude,
it's fun. It's fun to hear that stuff.
There are some like similarities between like a hallucinogenic trip and a lot of the wow moments that I've had in my life. Right? Because it's extenuating circumstances that are not normal. Right? Like taking acid is not normal. It shouldn't be something that you do often.
Right.
And it just shifts your entire perspective just for a moment long enough that you can think about something from a different viewpoint, and you get a aha moment from it.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people have these moments and do nothing with them. And I wasn't willing to do nothing with it.
Well said. No, well said. And yeah, so I mean, you've done acid?
No, I've done mushrooms, but not acid.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I've only done I don't, not to like I need to fucking talk to the police or prove myself or whatever, but like the first time I ever did it, I think I did like 3/4 of a tab, and then I've done it multiple times since then, but only in like a microdosing kind of avenue, and then shrooms just a little bit. But I think from a mental side, it can be incredibly beneficial, like if you're in the right space. And then 2, which I think in the future we're going to learn a lot more about, from a like performance enhancing thing of like playing sports. Dude, it's something that I've never, like,
really?
It's uncomparable to something like, just in terms of like, it gets this like body, I mean, you know, the body mind connection to a whole nother level, where like I'm a quarterback, so I'm throwing the ball all the time. And it's like, I realized slowly, long story short, that after my first experience, like that next off season, like I wanted the ball to go there. The ball went there, you know, like there was just very little like actual thought that needed to happen. just of like being one with my body, that I'm like convinced that like Tom Brady, and I'm really convinced that Aaron Rodgers was doing some microdosing this offseason. The way that he talks about like his, I don't know if you're a football guy or not, but like he talks about his like renewed love for the game, and like his, just the way he talks. And he's a California guy. I'm sure he smoked weed throughout it, but like there's a distinct change in how he talks about how he views things, that I think in like 20 years we're going to be like, oh, so, and I know some pro athletes now that have either practiced on psychedelics or like used them microdosing. I think in 20 years we'll be like, oh, so these are like like some beneficial things, and more than just like dreadhead seeing colors kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's almost like a kind of an aspect of it that it almost like clears the tubes in your brain of all the muck,
For sure.
and
Ooh,
like
that's
makes
a,
things like move clearer and faster, and everything is like actually connected properly.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's, like I said, I'd done the shrooms the one time, and um like I was, again, the first time I did acid was Venice Beach Drum Circle, with, it was like literally like the perfect atmosphere. Then the next week I went again with one of my buddies and did shroom, and I'm not a big dancing kind of guy, like
Sure.
very self-conscious about
Mm.
that kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, like again, not, I don't know how much, but very little shrooms, but like enough that I just didn't have this like the veil of subconscious worrying about others' opinions had like totally dropped.
Mm.
And I'm fucking gigging, dancing, probably horribly. And but I could at one point like feel people wanting to like be in my vibration and like
Mm.
being in my area. And by the end of it, like it slowly kind of like disperses, and the circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And by the end, like I'm one of the only guys dancing, and it's only like 8 people playing, and random people are walking by watching. And I realized, like, dude, you were the star of the show,
Mm.
at one point. And like, that is not, even though I like playing football in front of large crowds, like, I don't want to be dancing in front of large,
Yeah.
but like it played back to like, yo, you're the star, bro, and
Yeah, don't worry
so
about it.
it's the, like you said, it cleared out some muck, it cleared out some stuff. And there's, I haven't gotten into it as much as I want yet, but I mean, there's some science behind what you just said too,
Mm.
of like the depression and addictions and stuff it helping out with that.
But yeah,
Um,
like there's been some studies done on how psilocybin and MDMA used in clinical settings can help soldiers with PTSD get over some of the stuff that happened at war.
for sure. Yeah,
Right.
there's something, I don't know the exact terminology, but there's some receptor in our brain that essentially, I'm going to be real general, causes depression.
Sure.
And um when we are depressed, it is because this receptor is not functioning at a proper level or whatever.
Sure.
And when people take antidepressants, that receptor essentially just gets shut off.
Yeah.
And when you do psilocybin, it like repairs that receptor in a
Okay.
way that other things can't really. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe other
maybe.
things can, I don't, but from what
Yeah.
I read, like it does, it helps to antidepress you in a
Sure.
completely in the non shut off way that
Yeah.
antidepressants do.
Presence do. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Um, assuming that that's true, I don't know if it is or not, but assuming that that's true, I wish that places like the United States or Canada or whatever would take, you know, these hallucinogenics more seriously in regards to clinical treatment. Um, Also, just to be clear, I'm gonna have to get off in about 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was going to say, I knew you initially said I got an hour and we're at over 2. So
Oh
yeah.
no, dude, you're good. I cleared my morning actually. So like, but lunchtime rolls around, I gotta eat, and then I have a production meeting for like 4 hours doing some recording and stuff. So
Oh, sick, man.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, okay, cool. Like, shoot, because I did want to talk about, I mean, I didn't, this is one of, actually, I've done one other like I mean, this is random as can be. I've done
Yes.
only one other one that I only knew the guy through Twitter, but we'd
Sure.
followed each other for maybe like 4 or 5 years and like gone back and forth, messaged, throughout the years.
Mm.
And so me and him went for like 2 hours. But normally when I don't really know the person, an hour is kind of tough. And for us to just be like, shit, I'm sorry, I gotta cut it short at 2:20, is a really
Yeah.
good sign,
That's a very good sign. Yeah.
that's awesome. And so we'll have to do a second one for sure. Cause like I also one of the things that really interested me was like the theology side of things, but
Oh yeah.
I don't think we should get into it yet because
Oh, let's not open up that box because that's another 2 hours.
for sure. Yeah.
2 hours.
And yeah, if there's a 10-minute time limit, then yeah, because I think, and that's what's crazy is I almost like I don't write too many notes at this point anymore. Like I just want to flow. But the most notes or most little things I had written was about theology and religion. And so for us not to even get there in 2 hours is like fucking awesome, man. Like that's really cool.
Dude, I like that. It means it shows that we vibe pretty good.
For sure.
Sure. And
No,
I'm more than happy to come back on. That's not a problem for me.
Okay, cool. Well, okay, let's finish then. We only got the 10-minute time limit kind of like give me the rundown with like Twitch and what you're doing with that, because that's something I'd like to get into.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Okay. So I realize that TikTok is a ticking time bomb where eventually one day it will become irrelevant and stupid.
Yeah.
That became
Like
very real to
Instagram.
me. Yes, that became very real to me when Donald Trump was trying to kill it. And I was like, oh my God, my entire life is on TikTok. No. So I'm trying to move people off platform. Because I want to do so I want to have TikTok, I want to have the music, and I want to have Twitch as 3 different ways of doing content. So music is obvious, TikTok is just kind of funny little things, 1-minute clips, whatever. And then Twitch, I'm doing podcasts live Friday night, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, with random guests, friends of mine, whatever. And it's just audience can ask me questions and we'll just friggin' answer them. Like,
oh, dope. Bro,
right?
that's again weird little similarity. I started this at 8 p.m. my time Friday night.
Nice.
So
nice.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do with it. And I just, trying to get people to, because I've had hundreds of comments and DMs and just people hitting me up being like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this? Will you make a podcast? Is there a long form version? Are you planning on making YouTube videos, doing educational things? Like, I want to know. And I'll be honest, I have no interest in making educational YouTube videos.
Right.
I have no interest in doing like a proper podcast that goes on Spotify with like little intro music and well edited and stuff. But what I'm happy to do is have friends on a Friday night who I know are educated and nuanced and smart, right? Or like people like yourself who have interesting ideas, who I know aren't going to just be like 17-year-old idiots that are like, well, communism's a great idea.
Yeah.
Right. And like
CNN talking points and yeah.
Right. And I just chat, just answer questions, debate a little bit, conversate, make jokes, play some Minecraft, right?
Okay.
And just hang out.
And they're like, when you say you're having your friends on, they're in person, or you can do it via like Zoom like this, or how are you doing that? I'm just literally asking so I can do it.
Yeah, you're good. So how I'm doing it is I'm going to be playing like a game. So I'll be playing Minecraft tonight, right? Just live, just normal Twitch, OBS or whatever.
Okay.
And I'll have them in on a Discord call.
Okay.
So like the audio from Discord will go through the stream. So like people can hear them talk, and they can see me and hear me talk while I'm also playing the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So their video or one of whatever won't be on your screen.
No. No,
Okay.
we've talked about doing this. So there's a way that you can have multiple people on one screen through Skype, and then you can stream it. So it'll be like four corners on the screen and each person, and then you can stream that. And we've talked about doing that, but at the moment we're just going to go with this because it's easy, and at the moment it's just me branding myself, so I don't
Yeah,
need to have other people be seen. It's just people can just ask questions and listen and hang out.
for sure. Yeah. And the it sounds like the Minecraft play is taking up most of the screen. You're just the smaller screen. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the
Yeah.
Minecraft play is just there for people to like, it's something to watch. And it's like, and it
Yeah.
might also have funny moments, right? Because like, if we're like in the middle of debating about like, the Russian Revolution, and then all of a sudden we get attacked by a bunch of skeletons and we're all just freaking out and then we die. And it's like, oh, what were we talking about again? And like, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
entertaining that way.
Yeah. It brings some like fun to something serious, or
Yeah.
like a nice little combination of the two. Okay, cool. So Discord. All right. That's well then what's your Twitch name? Like plug yourself. I know
Oh,
it plug yourself. Do the plug right now,
do
because
the plug
although
right at the end thing.
I've been finally like paying attention to analytics and stuff,
Yeah.
because in the beginning of YouTube I've battled with like, I'm not a YouTube, I don't want to be a YouTuber kind of thing. And then I had a like vlog series from when I was in Nepal that like for me blew up, like went
Hmm.
from 200 subscribers to 2,500 like
Well,
in a week.
that's
And
awesome.
yeah, and so now I'm kind of like I'm now losing subscribers because I'm more doing podcast content, but
Yeah.
I'm gaining, it's like a kind of even out thing. But I finally just started looking into analytics, and so I'm saying this because like at the 2 hour mark, although you'll get some good traffic from your because people like you. You got some good people, and
Yeah.
but I've been at like 20% by the end of videos normally, and
Yeah.
so I should have done the plug. Maybe I'll do
Dude,
the I don't know, but plug it away, bro. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not bothered by that.
Yeah.
Also, as a total side note, before I plug myself, you can
Yeah.
stream straight to YouTube. So if you want to have all your content on one place instead of it being on Twitch, you can just stream to YouTube if you
Okay.
wanted
Yeah.
to.
I like the idea of getting into the like Twitch sphere
Okay.
because yeah, the dude I talked to on Wednesday, my buddy who's like in the gaming world, but
Hmm.
he's also like first he killed it on TikTok and then moved over, like started streaming. He's also like a really incredibly smart dude social media wise,
Hmm.
and but also incredibly authentic. And like the Twitch, like I want to get the branches out of not
Cool.
just YouTube, not just because every now and then YouTube will either demonetize something or fucking take it off. So like I don't want to have all eggs in one basket.
Smart. Okay, cool. And then the plug thing. If you want to see me on Twitch, it's www.twitch.tv/I am Robin Skies. So just
Okay.
look up I am Robin Skies on Twitch. Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. It's the same handle at I am Robin Skies. The thing that's most important to me is go stream my fucking music. That's what
Yeah.
matters to me. And I mean that non-aggressively to your audience. I love you guys. But I like Robin Skies on all streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube, whatever has streaming, Bandcamp.
How would you describe your music? Because like I said, I gave it a really shitty, like since like you take these samples that aren't, like how do
Yeah.
you describe it?
If you like pop music, if you like down tempo music, if you like emo or indie, you'll like what I make. If you want comparative artists, I've been told that I sound like James Blake. I've been told that I sound like Joji. I've been told that I sound like Bon Iver. I've been told that I sound like those people, and I think that is a fairly accurate representation, just mixed in with all like some emo and some early 2000s kind of rock music.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. James Blake. I I'm going to now. I'll get the discography or whatever, the full playlist on. I have like a 30-minute walk to this place I get lunch every day. And so
Nice.
normally I'm podcasting, but I'll throw you on there next time.
Thank you.
Just
Appreciate you.
to do that, because I'm curious, man. It's not every day I get to talk, and I mean this in the utmost respectful way. I don't get to talk with a real life trailer park boy ever. Like, dude, there's like I said, that one just like tripped me out to.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Hey,
And
if I ever blow up enough in Canada that I have access to the actual trailer park boys, I will get them on this podcast.
dude,
I promise you that. That's a promise. If I ever have actual access to them, I'll be like, yo, my buddy Joey, right? Talk to him. He loves you guys.
Bro, that would be so crazy. And I mean, if like, I don't know how I can say the same thing the other way, but the same thing the other way, like, because
hey, if you ever end up in this podcast sphere where you are friends with like Joe Rogan or something, get me on his freaking podcast. I want to talk to that guy.
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Especially considering how much theology stuff he says. And I'm like, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah, we got to have a part 2 for sure. I'm not super educated, or I've never grown up religious, but like it always interests me, just the idea of beliefs and those kind of things. So no, it's, dude, the fact, maybe it sounds crazy to some, but the fact that like we're talking about it in like a when/if it happens is the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean?
no, like
I've thought about that before, man. Like I've said, like, oh, like when, like, man, I'll never hit this number. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to hit this number. And I did.
Totally. No, and it all, like, I mean, we'll get into that on the next one. It all starts here, man. Like, and kind of whatever you believe, it's true in a way,
Yeah.
for you.
The whole manifestation thing is hard because I don't think you can actually manifest something, right? But it is in the sense of like, if you think negatively about yourself and about your situation and your surrounding situation, etc., will be negative. And if you think positively, you will maybe have negative things happen to you, but you'll have a positive outlook and perspective, and you'll be able to make lemonade out of lemons, kind of thing. For
sure. And ultimately, the bad stuff won't get you. Like, now I see it like, okay, something bad happens to me. I mean, I'm getting to a point now where, throughout the path, like, no matter what the fuck happens, like, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to get through it. Like, I know that it's got that next thing in line for me, even if it's not what I can see. And so you get into that mindset, shit gets real crazy, and maybe it doesn't blow up, but we had a lot of fucking fun for this 2.5 hours already. Like, it was a good day already.
This was not a waste of a conversation. Not at all.
Yeah. And a friendship. It's we're like growing out. So yeah.
I got you. I'd consider you a friend. Let's go.
No doubt, man. Thank you. I need a friend.
You're welcome.
Dude. Yeah. Virtual, but no. And shit, that's a weird thing. I mean, you're only 3 hours from where I'm from.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Wild.
Really weird.
Yeah.
But shit. All right, man. I'll let you go and go kill that session.
I will.
And we'll be in touch.
Okay.
All right. Cool, man. Much love. Appreciate you, man.
Cool. Appreciate you too, buddy.
Take care.
Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Living for a living, baby. How you doing?